Councilmember Ruben Gutierrez, the City of Laredo, District Number 5.
Council Member, we're here at TAMIU in Laredo. Tell us how important trade is to Laredo. That is a very silly question, I know, but an obvious question. Just how important is trade?
It's extremely important to the City of Laredo when it comes to. Trade is our number one industry here. That is our economic development driver here in Laredo, not only with warehousing, trucking. That industry just keeps Laredo alive, keeps it moving. Us being the number one inland port in the entire United States makes it very important and vital to keep our bridges open and expanding them as much as we possibly can, to keep traffic moving from Mexico to the United States. A lot of people say that we're so important to Texas, but it's literally the entire United States that depend on these ports of entry staying open.
Do you happen to know the tonnage or the volume, value, etc., of all the goods crossing?
Value was just mentioned, over $1 million every minute, every single minute that crosses. So every day we see an influx of 8,000 to 12,000 trucks crossing our bridges, specifically World Trade Bridge, which is the largest, like I just mentioned earlier. So you're talking thousands and thousands of trucks crossing here every single day.
Do the people of Laredo realize that how important you are to the nation?
I think so. I think the people of Laredo know that. I think the people of Texas and the United States are what is something that we need to put out there a little more. If you do research it, we don't come out as the number one inland port, but we certainly are. We beat numbers by thousands and thousands of any other ports that are even comparable to what we do.
So how many ports of entry or bridges do you have?
Here in Laredo, we have bridge number 1, bridge number 2, bridge number 3, which is Colombia Solidarity Bridge, and then we've got the World Trade Bridge. World Trade Bridge is where we see most of our volume as far as commerce is concerned.
So run through the new developments, the expansions, the applications for new bridges. Where are things at there?
So we have an application process that we're going through World Trade Bridge. We need a presidential permit to have the expansion of World Trade Bridge, which is where we're expecting very, very soon. It should be 2 express lanes, 2 very, very quick lanes, and then 8 lanes as well added to what is there now. So the express lanes are going to be bigger companies that typically travel 60 to 70 trailers, 100 trailers a day. So those would be moving a lot quicker, which would help our lines get to 35, of course, our corridors to get to 35, and then head the transport, the commerce up the nation up 35 northbound.
And there's an application in for a brand new bridge?
There is an application as well. Well, it hasn't been turned in yet, but we do have a presidential permit that we're going to be turning in pretty soon. The city needs to get together with the county, and it looks like it's a private land developer as well. So us 3 need to get together, and Mexico, of course, the governor of Nuevo León, the governor of Tamaulipas, and once we get together with them and get everything ironed out, then we can start the process of the presidential permit from there. And that's for the 405 bridge in South Laredo. We also have a presidential permit that we're going to be wanting to work on very soon as well for Colombia Solidarity Bridge. The Colombia Bridge, we're also expecting 8 lanes also added to it because we have a Tesla plant that's going to be built in Monterrey. That's already being done already as we speak. So the roadways from Monterrey, Mexico to Laredo, Colombia, are getting expanded. They're getting dressed up so they can transport these commerce or these materials quicker, faster, safer, and they'll be coming through Colombia Bridge. So that expansion is going to be through Colombia Bridge as well.
And what about on the north side of Colombia, getting from Colombia Bridge to I-35? Is that good enough at the moment with all that extra truck traffic coming in with Tesla, or do you need to do more there?
We're going to need to, the road itself is in great shape. It's 255, what it's called, FM 255. That used to be a toll road. So the road itself is in good shape. It's a 2-lane highway going east and a 2-lane coming west. It functions well right now, but if we're looking at expanding the amount of tractors that will be coming through that port, Colombia Bridge, then we're going to need to do some type of work, not necessarily on 255, but the connector from 255 to I-35.
To do all that, do you need the help of the state of Texas?
We certainly do. So last week, Senator Ted Cruz was here in Laredo and Congressman Henry Cuellar. A bipartisan deal that they made together, Republicans and Democrats, to come together because they're starting to see exactly what how Laredo impacts like I mentioned, not only Texas, but the United States as far as commerce is concerned.
Mm-hmm. We just came from a press conference with Congressman Quayle. That was all about STEM education, some extra funding for TEMIU, for math and science, etc. But at that event, the leader of the Laredo Community College was just telling us that there's going to be an explosion in Laredo of trade and extra business. You obviously got your finger on the pulse there. Is that a fair prediction?
It's a fair prediction. In the next 10 years, we're not going to recognize Laredo. It's going to continue growing as it's been growing every year. It just keeps on growing and growing, and we haven't seen it slow down any. With the new bridge coming about, when we do get the funding for the 4-5 and that starts coming about, you're talking about two of the largest ports in the entire United States moving tractors. And as I mentioned earlier, 8 to 16, anywhere from 8 to 12,000 to 16,000 trucks sometimes. It's happened that we were crossing 16,000 trucks a day. Can you just imagine what another bridge will do to the city of Laredo? Not only that, but the state of Texas will start funding an outer loop here in Laredo. We've got Loop 20 now, which is called Bob Bullock Loop, but the state of Texas is going to have to fund an outer loop to be able to move the volume that we'll be bringing in through the city of Laredo.
And obviously TxDOT's aware of all of this.
Yes, they are.
They're putting into their plans to do the expansion on their end.
Absolutely. Once that 4-5 bridge, God willing, gets built, well, of course, the process is going to take some time. We need to do plenty of engineering work, plenty of work as far as NEPA is concerned as well. Engineering, environmental studies, those take years to get done. And then, of course, a presidential permit as well. It takes years to get done as well. But in 10 to 12 years, I can guarantee you we will not recognize Laredo.
So we learned a lot about this from a visit last week to the Rio Grande Valley from Duncan Wood from the Mexico Institute. And he was talking about the Tesla project. He had a lot of positive remarks about the governor of Nuevo Leon, saying he was very much pro-business and working closely with Elon Musk to get the Tesla plant built, like you mentioned, expansion and just a smoother run from Monterrey to Colombia, which obviously is Nuevo Leon's only bridge. But the thing that interested me, and I had not heard this, a dedicated lane for Tesla, and I think he said a dedicated lane for John Deere as well. Were you aware of that? And what a novel idea that is.
We've heard of the talks about specifically Tesla and John Deere because they're going to be the reason why this expansion is happening. A lot of the expansion has to do because of Tesla having their plant built in Monterrey. So that direct connect, we just saw we won't be able to handle the volume that's going to be coming from, or what we expect to be coming from Tesla. So when this came about, talking about specific lanes for businesses, which is something we've never done before in the city of Laredo, but it's something we're certainly looking at. If they're doing it on the Mexican side, that's fantastic. And if we can continue that, I think it'd be a really, really good thing. These two industries, these two companies bring in so much trade. You know, Tesla brings in so much, not only vehicles, but they bring in batteries and other things to be able to power certain type of equipment. And we just see that expanding tremendously, and it's not going to stop anytime soon.
So up until now, how busy has Colombia been? It's been open a few decades now, but was it always like an underutilized bridge before?
I think so, because it's so far away from Tamaulipas itself, or from Nuevo Laredo, I'm sorry, that it's a distance of travel that way. Although just last year, it was mandated that empty tractor trailers were going to be moving through Colombia Bridge, so that helped with the volume. And that helped us tremendously in World Trade Bridge, because then we could use those tractor trailer spaces that were being held up by empties to move them to Colombia Bridge. So therefore, we're able to move even more traffic through World Trade Bridge now.
Mm-hmm. And for those that are not familiar with Laredo, how many miles are we talking about Colombia to, say, downtown Laredo?
From Colombia to downtown Laredo, I want to say approximately 22 miles, give or take. It is a distance. It certainly is a distance. But it really does help with our commerce as far as moving more commerce through our World Trade Bridge. Like I say, having those empties going through Colombia. And
what do you say to those that would say that having logistics, warehousing, basically a pass-through economic situation, that doesn't bring a lot of added value to Laredo? Other jobs well paid enough, in the logistics business, and so is Laredo going to benefit tremendously in an economic sense from all this extra trade, or is it simply the trucks just roll through the community?
Typically, because of logistics, a lot of it stays here in Laredo, and they drop off a lot of commerce, a lot of material, a lot of equipment here in our warehouses here in Laredo. And then from here, a local driver or a United States driver will pick it up here and leave from Laredo, Texas, and take it further north wherever we need to go to in the United States from here. So it certainly helps us. It certainly does. It helps the industry, of course, tremendously when it comes to, because like you just mentioned, logistics is very important, trucking is very important, warehousing is very important. So with that industry just growing and growing, we're seeing people and jobs opening up there at every single warehouse, every logistics company, every U.S. customs brokers. It's not just a 10-person type of facility. You're talking about 50, 60, 100 people sometimes, just depending on the size of the warehouse that's going to be built here in Laredo.
It just seems as though you're going to have a lot of asks of the federal government, of the state government, to put the infrastructure in place for you to be able to benefit from all this projected additional trade.
Sure, absolutely. We lean on our federal partners and the state partners, of course, because without them we wouldn't be able to continue this growth in the city of Laredo. And their funding helps us tremendously as well. So their funding makes this commerce happen here in our beautiful city. What their funding does is, of course, expand as far as infrastructure is concerned, and we need that. We certainly need that. World Trade Bridge is on FM 1472, which is called Mines Road here in Laredo. We have literally 3 roads that lead to 35 from there. So with so many trucks coming through every day, we're working on 2 different roads, 2 different connectors to work on there, which is a Char-Ruthinger road, and we're working on by a CO road as well. So those are very important to us, they're vital to us to be sure that those continue. And the funding from the state of Texas has helped us tremendously when it comes to.
So I understand later today there's going to be an award given to Congressman Cuellar. It's going to be he's got some transportation related meetings, but also an award from Port to Plains. Tell us what the Port to Plains project's about.
The Port to Plains project is typically, it's talking about what we can do here in Laredo as far as trade is concerned. That's what we're really, really concentrating on. As mentioned earlier, that's Laredo's bread and butter. That's Laredo's trade. That's Laredo's industry. We moved commerce so well. So Ports to Plains is just speaking about that in particular.
Mm-hmm. And what else? Is there anything else I've missed, Councilmember Gutierrez? Anything else? Well, I guess the one question I had is, what do you put all this down to? What do you understand of the impact of USMCA or of the supply chain disruptions during COVID, and now this trend of nearshoring? Is that why the projections are so great for Laredo?
Why the projection is so great is where Laredo is situated. It really comes right through the heart of coming out of Mexico. So we are in a perfect spot for trade coming from Mexico, traveling to the United States. That's why we are so busy here. We have something to do with it, but I certainly can't say that we have 100% to do with it as far as the city leaders are concerned. It's literally our geographical area, where we are. And that's what's made us such a great city when it comes to transportation.
We talked all the way through about trucks and the movement of goods via road. Any thoughts of additional rail lines coming down here?
Yes, KCS, Kansas City Southern. I think they got bought out. I'm not sure that's still their name or not. But KCS was interested in building a new bridge coming through, and they are going to be constructing that as well. So railway is another way that we're going to be getting commerce through or goods through the city of Laredo. Airline transportation, moving cargo through air. I think we are the 7th largest in the United States so far. And again, we're expanding our terminals to be sure that we are a business-friendly community, and we want to make sure that people know that they want to move goods through into the United States, you come to Laredo, Texas, because we're open for business and we're waiting for you to be here.
Well, that is it, Councilmember Gutierrez. Those are all the questions I had. Is there anything I've missed? Anything else you would like to add?
No, just like I said, just want to touch more on our airport as far as cargo is concerned. We are certainly expanding our terminal as well. That's one thing that we're looking at getting. I don't know if we'll hit number 1, but we are certainly striving for it. We try to strive to get to be that number 1 position all the time.
Thank you so much for today's interview.
It was a pleasure to meet you, sir. Thank you.